We'll start with the talk. So, already 6:30.
You want me to take a break?
It's already 6:30. It's okay for you? You ready? Okay. So welcome once again to our Wisdom in Action series. And today the topic is one of my favorites, which is on karma. That karma is not punishment, but it is just a feedback. And really, today when we are talking about karma, when we use the word karma, most of the time we use it as a replacement for punishment or some kind of suffering. Yeah, and that is such a misnomer, I would say, right? Karma, we know, we understand that it is a much bigger phenomena than just suffering. And to really understand it as feedback, this feedback is a very interesting word, because feedback, where do you get and when do you get? Any thoughts?
When do you get feedback?
Do you want to use the hand mic?
I was generally thinking like feedback, anything happens in life which is not working, then you say that, oh, it might be my previous past karma. So like mostly something negative happens, and then that's when you think or relate it to karma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So feedback we actually get mostly, if you're working or if you're studying, yeah, in our educational systems, in our workplaces, we receive feedback. And the aim of the feedback is that, that in any place, like this, is it better? So if in any place that you're involved in, right? Now, first of all, whether it is the education system or it is the workplace, you go there so that you can have fun there, right? And also so that you can bring out your best, your highest potential, your best self can be brought out in any place that you either work or the educational system as well. And and feedback is given because there are some rules that govern that place, right? Whether it is your workplace or whether it is the educational system, there are some rules that you have to follow, and feedback is given uh, to let you know whether you were following the rule correctly or you were not following, right? So it can be both ways. It can be what we call a good feedback, or it could be what we call not so good feedback. And this word is used, constructive feedback. Constructive feedback, you understand, right? That you use it to construct something new. So constructive feedback is a nicer word for bad feedback, right? That you don't view it as a negative feedback, but then you use it to turn yourself into the better of yourself, right? So feedback's main aim is actually to help you improve and become better, right? So if somebody tells you about the good things you did in following the rules, then they will help you develop or enhance those good things that you did, right? And then if it is the constructive feedback, then it will help you make corrections, and it will help you become, understand what is it that helps, that you need to correct, and then you do it so that you can bring out the best in yourself. So I want to take an example of a workplace that I used to work way long back. One of my, I think my second job it was, so long time back. So now, of course, every organization there are rules, no, to follow, and so now this was outside the work setting. Of course, it was organized by work and by the office people, where all the employees, we went for an off-site, an outing, right, for a couple of days or couple of nights, something like that. And now, even though, we were in another setting, not in an office setting, but the rules of the office still apply, So, we had, of course, we had meetings and conferences and some lighter fun activities and everything. And then in the night there was a party, right? And in the party, people started dancing because there was music and everything. Now, one of my colleagues, he started behaving a little bit differently while dancing, right? So now some of his friends went and he said, they started to tell him that, this is not right, you're not doing this right, you shouldn't behave this way. So he ignored, all his friends went. Then after some time, the HR, because the news then went to HR, and then the HR was also part of the party. So the HR, she went to him and she said that, no, this is not right. He did not listen. So then he ignored whatever feedback he was getting. He continued the way he was behaving. And then after the party finished, the next morning was an office morning. We had to go to work, and then he was called by the HR and he was fired. He was laid off because of the behavior. So it's not that, what is it that feedback is supposed to make us do, right? If we take the feedback, right, then we could have corrected ourselves and not experienced what we call the punishment or the suffering. In this case, he was laid off. Yeah. But many times this is what happens, no? That feedback is being given, but then we don't. Okay, we can try. So, the purpose of feedback is to make us correct, whatever we are not doing right. But then, if we keep ignoring it, and we don't pay heed to it, we don't follow the feedback, or we don't recognize that we are doing anything wrong, then what will happen? Punishment will be experienced. Then it feels like a punishment, but we don't have to go through that feeling of punishment or suffering even. Yeah, so just like any organization has a set of rules that governs, and if your behavior is as per the rules, right, then feedback received will be good, right? You will not receive a negative feedback first of all, right? So karma actually is very much working like this. And where are we living? We are living in this world, and there is this universal law that governs our life here. That is called karma. And our basic understanding of karma is, yeah, that what we give is what we receive, isn't it? What you sow is what you will reap. You get what you deserve, right? All of these sayings we have heard. Yeah. But of course, there is a cause and an effect, right? Whatever you do has a consequence, but the consequence itself, we have to understand that it is dependent on what we do. So we are fully responsible, yeah, of for doing. For example, in a very simple case, if we were to look at how we are sitting, right? Now, if I sit slouching or not in the right posture, then there will be definitely pain in the neck, in the back, right? But how do we view that pain? It's a feedback that the body is giving to me that you have to sit right. You have to correct your posture. So the only way the body can speak is, yeah, HR can speak through the mouth, through words, right? But how can body speak? Through pain. And that is what happens in the universe also. What we observe is that actually nature wants to give us the best. It wants to protect us. It wants us to be happy, having fun. It wants to be for us to provide us whatever is needed for us to be in our highest state. Yeah. But if we are in the wrong posture, then there has to be a feedback mechanism so that we can correct our posture. So just like how the body will send signals through pains, yeah, physical pain, it will send signals to correct the posture because we are not following the rules of sitting straight and right. We are not in the right posture. Similarly, universe also has no words to express. So the way universe communicates with us or gives us feedback is through, how do we know that there is something not right? Sorry? Blocks? Obstacles? Yeah. Blocks? Yeah, very nice. Yeah. So there will be obstacles and blocks in your way. And difficulties, no? Situations will be such, circumstances become such that they cause you pain, discomfort. They feel like obstacles. And how we take these obstacles, so to say obstacles, what nature is trying to do is just trying to give us feedback, right? And what is it trying to say? That you are not in the right posture. In order to receive the best, in order to lead a obstacle-free life, block-free life, a free life, yeah? A happy life, a peaceful life, you have to be in following the rules of the game. So, what is the rule of the game? In the spiritual sense, the right posture, right? Just like for the body, sitting upright is the right posture. In the spiritual sense, the right posture is to be in the true identity state. What do I mean by true identity state? That is the right posture. So, true identity just means that I know, not just I know, but I operate from the true identity state. Meaning that we are not these physical bodies, right? Spirituality is telling us that we are beings of light, tiny, living, conscient beings, that are invisible, beings who are immortal. Such is our reality. And since we are non physical, incorporeal beings, we don't have any body, we don't have, in the original state, right? We are like guests in the body, yeah? We are guests in this world, yeah? So, if we operate from that kind of state of mind, then we are in the right posture. Then we don't, then we receive as if we are following the rules of the game, right? By being in the right posture. And then we don't have to go through any kind of pain, right? Body goes through physical pain, but the other kinds of pain also we can experience. Suffering is like a mental pain. There are emotional pains, mental pain, any kind of pain. Yeah, there is definitely a posture which is at the spiritual level not right. So if there is a true identity state, meaning and that is the right posture, that means that there is also a false identity state which is the wrong posture. So what is this false identity state? Any thoughts? I would like to use the board. Even online can share. So we were saying that is it on? Yes. Okay. We were saying that there is a true identity state, right? Which is the right posture. When we are following the rules of the game, then you don't have to go through any kind of negative feedback or pain, any kind of pain, emotional, mental, any kind of pain. But then if there is a true identity state, which is a right posture, that means that there is also a false identity state, which is called the wrong posture spiritually. So if true identity state is this invisible tiny point of light, then the false identity state, any idea what that is? So posture can be noticed best in a selfie, isn't it? If you take a selfie, then you can notice your posture, right? So we'll take a selfie today. Selfie of the mind. So this is the selfie of the mind. And when we say the true identity state, right, that means we're representing that with this red big eye, where we are aware that we are these living conscient beings, tiny points who are invisible, imperishable, and we all start with this state, the true identity state, the right posture. Then, as we begin to interact with different, first interaction is with the body, and then we start to relate with other people, we start to use objects, we start to interact with gadgets and food and hobbies and money and position and pets and so many things, right? So, when we start interacting, we come at some point we start to lose this awareness that we are points of light, immortal beings, living beings who are imperishable. We start to lose that clarity, and when we lose that clarity, we come into what we call the false identity state. So, in the selfie of the mind, which is the current state selfie, we have many false identities which we are referring to as these small black eyes. So, the false identities is what we are calling the wrong posture. And one false identity may be that I am the mother, for example, based on relationship. Another false identity may be that I have a Tesla car. And one false identity, so based on possessions, right? Another false identity may be that I am the professor at Stanford University. And then there is bigger false identity that I am the wife of the professor at Stanford University. Yeah. So there are many false identities currently in the selfie of our minds. And so with the false identities, we start to sort of define ourselves based on the false identity, and then the false identity wants to think about that particular thing. Like, for example, if I am the wife of the professor, if the false identity is based on the wife, that the relationship of a wife of the professor at Stanford University, then she always wants to talk about how well the husband is doing in the job and how intelligent he is, or whatever awards and accolades he may be receiving, all of those things, right? But the false identity is the wrong posture. So now the more this false identity is sort of grown or fed, the more there is a possibility that there is a feedback that is received which is not what we want to receive from nature, because this is the wrong posture. It's a false identity. So what will happen if the nature wants to tell us that this is the wrong posture? So in this particular case of a wife, the false identity is the wife of the professor of Stanford University. What might happen so that nature can give the feedback that correct your posture, that this is not right posture? Is it making sense? Yeah, very good, right? So I don't know both your names, but you can use the hand mic. There are some online, so they can also hear.
Yeah, so like divorce.
Yeah. So a circumstance will be created where that false identity will be challenged, right? Or, you may call it obstacle, right? But then really what nature is trying to tell us is that you are not in the right posture. It's giving us that feedback, right? But if we keep ignoring the feedback, then definitely, yeah, that might actually happen. The separation might actually happen, right? So there are many, many examples like this, no? The good thing is that if we start to look at feedback in a positive way, as a constructive feedback, that it is meant for us, it may seem bad, it may at the outset, it may seem like bad feedback or negative, yeah, that they are trying to put me down or something like this. But then if we change the way we look at the feedback, we can change our posture and we can actually change our feelings and emotions. Yeah.
So one of the things that usually happens is when nature is hitting us negatively, we try to fix things, like putting it right or trying to keep it the way it's been. And most of the times we react negatively. And so what happens is that increases our negative karma.
Yeah.
And so in that case, that negative karma start increasing and increasing and increasing. So it's more work for me. How do I realize that I am doing the wrong thing, that nature is trying to, it's telling me that I need to fix what I'm doing wrong?
Yeah. So, Raj Yoga studies, they say that, so we believe that if there is any pain or suffering, any kind of pain or suffering, or this feeling of punishment, obstacles, all of this, right? So, any negative feeling, unpleasant feeling, if it is there, then even if you have tried to fix, you have not addressed the root cause of the problem. The posture is still not right. So there will still be lingering pain, lingering regret, lingering feelings of, that this was not fair, or this was not, this is not justice. So all kinds of those kind of feelings will come. But if you are in the right posture, then none of those feelings will be there. It will be benevolent feelings. It will be feelings of goodness and nobility and the highest state that you can be. So how do we know? Very good, no? Very good comment and question, that how do we know whether whatever I am doing to fix is actually, because none of us want to experience, right, these negative emotions and feelings, and we are doing our best, right, like for physical pain also, right. So instead of correcting the posture, right, if I am slouching and sitting, instead of correcting the posture, if I start taking painkillers to numb the pain, to relieve the pain, I will have temporary relief for sure, right? But it is still temporary. I have not addressed the root cause. So in the long run, keeping the pills, right, will actually totally make me ignorant and ignore the real root cause of the problem. So in Raj Yoga studies, we are focusing very much on understanding, first of all, what is the root of the problem. Einstein said that he used to spend 90% of his time in understanding the root cause of the problem. only 10% in solution. If you understand the problem right, if the diagnosis is right, if you go to a doctor, if the diagnosis is not right, then you will keep suffering, no? Right? He cannot treat. So, something similar, no? For ourselves, if we are feeling that no, karma and all is on one side, but I am suffering, right? In spite of understanding karma, even the understanding of karma itself has to be very accurate. At one level, yes, superficially we can say that there is, what you give is what you get, and there is a consequence, for every action that you take. Yes, it is. But what is action itself? That also we have to understand. Yeah. So, if we look at this word karma, karma comes from the Hindi word or Sanskrit word, which is kar. Kar means hand. Literally, it means hand. And so, karma we always, relate to a physical action that we do with our hands. Yeah. Many times that's what karma is related to, but in Raj Yoga understanding, we understand that karma is not just limited to physical karma, right, that you do with your body, your physical self, but karma actually, the seed of karma is this identity. So, the identity is what the inner factor, the inner posture that decides your or defines your thoughts, your vision, your action, all of that is your behavior, all of that is defined by the identity or the awareness that you are in. So, I will give a simple example. So, there is this a friend of ours who lives in the UK, and she was studying, and in college, and just like any other college student, she was working part time to pay her fees of the college. And so this way, 1 year of the college went by. She was living in a small apartment, comfortable but small apartment, and working her way through, doing classes, doing the job, the part-time job. And then one fine day, her grandfather passed away, and to her surprise, she got to know that he left a big inheritance for her. And overnight, as if she became what we call rich, right? So now she didn't know, she was leading an average student's life up until then. It was not luxurious or a rich person's life at all. And then when she became, when she got so many properties, so many, stocks and shares, so much money, that she became wealthy, and slowly over a period of time she started to live a very different life, what we call luxurious life. So she would only shop at certain places, wear only certain brands. So her clothing changed, then her the way she would go on a vacation or holiday, that changed. She would go on yachts and very luxurious vacations. So everything changed, right? And when she got so much of money, then she didn't know what to do with the money initially. So she appointed some advisors, wealth advisors, who would help her manage the money, right? But this false identity was born at that time, right? When she got the money, that now I am rich, I am wealthy. And then as we, stay in that wrong posture, just now, these various things that she was doing, that her life changed, that her clothes, appearance, and what she was doing with the money. So all of that, she started to feel that she is rich, right? So that false identity starts to become bigger. And then the posture is wrong now, nature starts to send feedback. So the first feedback that came to her was that after few years, her wealth advisors called her and said that, you know what, we are losing money in the stock markets, that all the investments are losing money. Yeah. So that's the first signal or feedback that she got. But she ignored it completely, because this false identity is so strong that I am rich. So she wanted to maintain the lifestyle of a rich person, right? Because she thought, oh, I'm wealthy, right? So ignore the feedback, right? She could have taken the feedback at that point. At every point we have an option, right? To understand, to recognize what you were asking, right? To recognize that there is pain, right? The investments are losing money, there is pain there, right? But if you ignore it and you continue to feed that false identity, to be in that wrong posture, so what happened then? So now the investments can't, supply for her wealthy lifestyle, right? That money is not there. So she started to borrow from banks to support that false identity and her lifestyle of a wealthy person. So one bank, two banks, three banks, like that she went to 8 banks, because one bank's money was not enough to support her wealthy lifestyle. And then there came a point, so this false identity, the posture is actually still wrong. It is becoming bigger, the false identity that I am rich, right? And then 8 banks, one fine day they realized she had good reputation, she was a well credible person. So they gave the loan to her when she asked to borrow. And then after few years they realized that she actually is never going to pay them back. Yeah, that she actually has nothing to pay them back. So one after the other, in a very short span of time, when the banks realized that this is not going to work, yeah, so they started sending her letters that that we will have to take away everything that you have, that we have realized that you are bankrupt. Actually we are going to declare you bankrupt, and that we are going to confiscate, you have no other assets left, because all her assets had anyways lost money. Yeah, all her investments had lost money, so she had nothing except that one apartment that she used to live in. So she never left that apartment where she used to live as a student. And but the banks are now getting after that apartment, because that's the only possession that is left. So now she doesn't know what to do, right? And the banks give her a notice, all 8 banks give her a notice that, okay, after 2 weeks we are going to come and we are going to take your apartment, and that's the end of it. We are not going to be able to help you anymore. So when she got this notice, so now she knows that nothing else is possible now. So she's standing at the window, and this is a real incident, okay, this is not a story, made up story. So she's standing at the window of her apartment and she's looking down on the street. She looks at a homeless lady on the street, on the bench outside, sleeping on that bench, the homeless lady. And in her mind she thinks that, after a few days I'm going to join that lady, yeah, that this apartment is going to be gone. And in her own words, she says that that was when this false identity actually died. Yeah, that up till now she was holding on to the false identity, I'm rich, I'm wealthy, and now she was prepared to go and join that homeless lady on the street, right? So that false identity died, meaning to say the wrong posture is now corrected to the right posture. And to her surprise, yeah, after a few days when this incident happened where the false identity died, in her mind, right, just in her mind, these banks started to now send her letters one after the other that our policy has changed, that we don't need to come and confiscate your apartment, and that we are ready to help you. You have to tell us how we can help you. And she couldn't believe it because, you know, her life was going to change altogether, and she couldn't believe that what is it that now it is a 180-degree change. So feedback. So she found out, you know, she was very curious that what happened. So she went to each of the banks and she asked that what happened exactly, you tell me. So they say, all of them say that our policy changed. So she asked, okay, then if the policy changed, can you tell me the date when the policy changed? And they all said a date that the policy changed after this date when this false identity died. So, meaning to say that we don't have to go through the feeling of suffering and punishment if we take the feedback, if we recognize that this is the feedback, if we take that signal that nature is trying to tell us, that come in the right posture, drop that false identity, come into the true identity state, that you are, is this invisible tiny point of light, is he rich? Is he the wife of Stanford, right, professor? Or so these are all false identities. How do we know something is false? Anything that is temporary is a false identity. That is based on something that is changing, unpredictable, or is temporary. That is false identity. And we are defining ourselves today based on these temporary, changing, unpredictable things. So, coming in the right posture, coming into truth. If this is false, this is true, right? Truth is imperishable. It is changeless. Yeah? So, if we start to operate from this, yeah, that okay, yeah, wealth may be there, but that false identity means that we are deeply defining ourselves. We are thinking that the wealth is mine, whereas the wealth is actually temporary, right? It is going to change. Job is going to change, relationships change, right? Possessions change, position change, pets also change, weather also changes, right? Everything in the physical world changes, but we are defining ourselves based on that.
So for her, the person you were talking, giving the example from, it was more like she accepted.
Yes.
She accepted the consequences of what
Yeah.
she was doing.
She accepted that there was this false identity, right?
Yeah. And then she was ready to take the responsibility
Yes.
and accept what was coming to her, like going, living like a homeless lady that was there.
Yeah. Yeah. So the good thing is that there is continuous feedback that nature is giving to us about the posture that we are in. Continuous feedback. Even in organizations nowadays, they say that feedback will not be given about performance only at the end of the year. Yeah, they have started to develop this continuous feedback, right? Every time anything you are doing, yeah, if there is a feedback given, then you can make a correction immediately, right? You don't have to wait till that one fine day and then discover, oh, then you say, if it is given once a year, then many times I would tell my manager that, if you told me this earlier, I would have done better earlier, I didn't have to wait all this long and go through all the difficulties, right? So if you are told in time, and that is nature's, I think, benevolence, that nature is giving us continuous feedback, right? And feedback doesn't have to be always negative, right? There is also reward for being in the right posture. That is also a feedback, right? So if you're experiencing something pleasant, nice, you are happy, you are peaceful, in a more stable way, not based on something from here because you have more money, for example, or because you are the wife, right? But based on our truth, right? Our spiritual truth, which is more permanent, then we know that it is a reward that we are getting. It's a good feedback that we are getting. Yeah? So why not nurture that rather than be in the wrong posture and feed that position? Many interesting examples, If we don't learn the lesson, if we don't take the feedback well, then we may be stuck. So another example of my colleague, this colleague, so we used to work together in this company, and we all were, we were earning the same thing and everything. Then one fine day he got a job offer from another country, right? And they were paying him 20 times more than what we were earning at that point of time. And of course he took the job and he was so happy. Yeah, he took his whole family. And then whenever he would come back to the town that we were working in, then he would tell us, sort of very proud and, I would say the false identity that I have such a good job and, earning so well. And we were very happy for him. But then after a few years, there came a time when suddenly he was laid off, right? And they told him to leave the country in a matter of actually couple of weeks. And till date, it's been almost 10 years now. Yeah? Till date, of course, he's doing something with his life and his profession. But then till date, he has not found another job, right? Or as good as what he was earning there. So, meaning to say, if we don't take the feedback that nature, if we don't understand it itself, right? If we don't recognize that what is the root cause of the problem, right? It may seem like a punishment, no? That, oh, suddenly now I don't have any job. Yeah? And then I blame myself, I blame others around. If no one is there, I blame some higher power or whatever, just the circumstances, right? But then spirituality is telling us, especially in the Raj Yoga, that we just have to change our posture, right, and come in the true identity state. And this doesn't have to take place anywhere physically, yeah. It is all in the mind. This is the selfie of the mind, no? So in the mind there are these false identities, yeah, and in the mind we can come to the true identity state. And the biggest good news is that we started like this, yeah, we started in a place where we were always happy, always dancing, always peaceful, always loving. We didn't have to go through any so-called punishment. So So that is how, if we just learn to look at karma in that way. Karma begins at the level of our awareness and the identity that we are in. Because our actions are also thoughts, not just physical actions.
So when we are suffering or when we are having problem with other people, that means that it's some karmic accounts that are being taking place. And instead of me of fighting back, I should just sit and check what am I doing wrong.
Yeah. So it is our responsibility, right? Not the responsibility of the circumstance or the people, other people, right? That's what you're trying to say, that if we start to view it that way, right, then we can change ourselves, and then we can come into this state of forever happy. We don't have to suffer.
So just coming back to the idea of identifying the root issue.
Yes. Yeah, that's the root of the problem. Yeah. If I'm sitting in the right posture, I don't have to go through any pain, right? I can be enjoying my life forever. Yeah, but because we ignore the pain, we take pills, we somehow don't understand what the root cause is, then we start to, or we do something like brother was sharing earlier, we try to fix it temporary or in a superficial manner, right? Just not going to the root cause, then also there is a problem. No? Actually the pain grows, right? The false identity grows then if we try to just cover it with something superficially, with an ointment. The root cause is never addressed in that case. Yeah. Any other questions or comments? It is so interesting. It is all in the mind. Karma is happening in the mind. So what we also say is that the inner factors is what define the outer factors. Inner factor, our inner world defines our outer world. The way, what we receive, the feedback that we receive is being defined by our inner factors, our inner posture of who we are. Yeah. And meditation actually helps us, Raj Yoga meditation helps us come into this right posture by realizing, by experiencing this living being. So first of all, we have to understand a little bit more about this living conscient being, who he is, where he comes from, what his reality is actually, and why he gets into this false identity states. All this understanding is given in our Raj Yoga courses and also the different sessions that are held here. And then ultimately meditation helps us come into this true identity state, to nurture this true identity state. The more we nurture this true identity state in silence, in introversion, connecting with our inner world, connecting with our truth, the more we realize that, oh, this is false, right? So I don't need to be in that false identity state. Again, doesn't mean that I should not have a car, or I should not marry, or I should not have many investments and so on, right? But it is the attitude, inner attitude that changes with the inner posture. We start to see these things as temporary, and we start to live with that awareness that these things are temporary and hence they are not mine, and my identity is not defined by these temporary things. So how about I nurture something that is a more permanent, that is imperishable. The more we nurture that, the more our posture becomes right in the way we interact with people, possessions, pets, money, everything around. Yeah. So, lesson on karma. Karma works in our benefit. So the feedback is in our benefit. Yeah. Anybody wants to share any final thoughts? Otherwise, we'll close with some meditation. Easy to let go of the false identities and come into true identity state. It takes time. Takes time. You know, to realize that why it takes time is there is some attainment here. No? We are used to getting happiness or peace or love from here, right? And then in that process, actually, we are forgetting or we have forgotten our higher, our higher self, the highest peace that we experience, the higher happiness, the higher form of love. So, in order to realize that, this has to die. That, just like in that lady's case, the false identity has to die. And there are so many false identities that we can actually develop. One more example. This friend of mine is a very good dancer, ballet dancer, and she would be called to perform on stage very often, right? And one fine day, after a performance, she was coming back in a car with a group of friends, and they met with an accident. In that accident, nobody got hurt, only my friend got hurt. And hurt also just on the face, many bruises, right? So they took her to the hospital, and the doctors did whatever they had to do to fix the face. And after few days in the hospital, first time when the doctor showed her the mirror, she started to cry a lot. And that's when she said that she had this realization that there was a false identity that she was nurturing, that she is very beautiful to look at, right? The appearance is very beautiful, right? That is also a false identity, because it is temporary, body is temporary, appearance is temporary, right? So when she realized that, then she came, we can say, in the true identity state. So it's not that dancing is not right or something like that, right? She's still a dancer, very good dancer, but this false identity is not there in the mind. So sometimes we feel, this accident happened, it's not right, it's a punishment God is giving me, what did I do wrong? We are not able to understand why this happened, and then we keep questioning, right? But the root of any form of punishment, misfortune, obstacle, suffering, any negative feeling is some false identity. And the area that the false identity is held in is the area that signal is given. So, if I am sitting in the wrong posture, there will be pain in the neck, right? Not pain in the legs, right? So something like that. So if the false identity is about appearance, her face was hurt in the accident, right? So that she could realize. If the false identity was about wealth, then her investments were, losing money, so that she gets that message of dropping that false identity. Very interesting, huh? So to take that feedback in the right manner. Yeah. Anybody wants to share any final thoughts? It's almost time. Okay. So shall we close with a short meditation? Let us use these few minutes to come into the right posture of the mind. Right posture just means to come into truth. Truth about who we are. So the true self, the true identity state is that we are tiny points of light. We are living, conscient beings. Imperishable beings of light. Subtle, invisible. And we are using this body, we are interacting with other people, objects, and everything around, but for a temporary period of time. Nothing in this world is mine, because everything is changing, everything has an end. But this real being, the true self, tiny point, he is immortal, changeless, timeless being who exists forever. He is separate. And independent from the body. And anything to do with the physical world. Just realizing this freedom helps us come into the right posture with the mind. Tiny point. Let us keep this aim to look at ourselves as these tiny points. Even though we may be using the body, interacting with people, using the objects, but with this perspective that all are transient and changing, dynamic. The only one who's permanent is this living, conscient, invisible being who looks like a tiny star. Just play with this